Hey everybody, Drew here, and welcome back to the Zippkits 46-inch VBOX build series. So as you can see, we've already removed the boat from the jig, and today we're going to be doing a couple of things before we seal the boat. Number one is removing all of those tabs from off of the frame. I've removed one to show you guys exactly how that should be done, nice and level. I used a little wood cutter. Dremel tool can be used as well, doesn't matter, whatever you have on hand. But we're going to do that to all of the tabs on the top so that we can get that out of the way and basically prepare for putting on the top deck, which will actually be the next step. So we're in the middle of step 7, and that involves sealing up the inside of the hull. I've taken a few pieces of carbon fiber Kevlar that I had and went ahead and cut them all down and got them all laid inside the center of the boat. I like to do that to help reinforce the boat. Some people use the provided fiberglass, but I don't. I like to use the carbon fiber Kevlar because I think it gives it a better finish and it looks better. We still use the fiberglass inside though, and I've got that here in a baggie, so we'll run a string all the way up each side of the boat and get that all sealed in there. So carbon fiber Kevlar, it's a special cloth, and anytime you're cutting carbon fiber or the carbon fiber hybrid like I've got here, the Kevlar version, you're going to need a couple of things. Number one is a pair of scissors that's specifically designed to cut this material. So when you go to purchase this, you're going to make sure that you're purchasing it for either the carbon fiber or the carbon fiber Kevlar. Now, the carbon fiber Kevlar is actually made out of titanium, and they're going to be a lot sharper than your standard scissor. I would never recommend trying to cut this stuff with a standard scissor, folks. You'll ruin the fabric because it won't do it. It just simply won't cut it. So make sure you get yourself a really good set of scissors, painter's tape, and here's why. When we're cutting this stuff to keep it from fraying, we actually, let me flip it over here, we measure out and we make ourselves a taped frame. And then once we have it all taped in, then we cut it, and just makes for a nice clean cut. And as long as you're maintaining the sharpness on the scissors, you'll get a nice clean cut. If you do get a little fraying, just takes, your gloves, a little water on the glove, a dab will do you, and just run it back in the direction that the fiber is traveling, right? And so in that case, it would be like this, and then in this case, it would be back this direction, and then so forth. So when you do that, it'll actually pull back to the mat and make for a nice, clean, finished product. And then you're going to need some 1 to 2 part laminating epoxy resin. This is really important, folks. It's laminating epoxy resin. Make sure you get laminating epoxy resin, because if you don't, what you're putting in the boat might just pop off the wood. You don't want that. You want it to stay. So make sure that you get the laminating resin. And so for this particular application, what we're going to do is we're just going to mix up a batch, and then we're going to paint it all inside the boat, nice thin coat. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to work each one of these pieces in using a squeegee and a roller, basically to cut it and to roll the air bubbles out of it. The last thing you want is trapping air bubbles, because it'll pop, and you don't want that. You want it to stick. So make sure that you roll that baby. And if you need to put a little bit more glass on top of it, add the glass. Don't be afraid. It's not going to hurt it. In fact, it's just going to help it. So that's going to be the next process, and I'll be showing some of that on video, and we'll be back. So stay tuned. So we're outside right now, and I've already done the premix on the 1 to 2 part laminating resin. So basically what I'm doing is, in each section, just giving it a nice coat. And you'll see it because the wood will actually turn colors as you're doing it. It'll go from being that light color to more of a amber color, if you will. So we just basically want to brush this stuff in there really good, coat all of the wood, and it's basically going to waterproof it, and it's going to strengthen it up as well. So that's why we do this, mostly because we want to seal it up, waterproof it, and make sure that we're getting everything nice and coated, so that we got a really super strong hull and no leaks. That's important, no leaks. So when I'm done with this part, we're going to come back and we're going to lay in the carbon fiber Kevlar right down the center of the boat. So stay tuned. Okay, I'm back, and so you can see I've got the carbon fiber Kevlar matting laid down into the boat. And so what you want to do is you want to wait till just as this starts to tack, and you want to lay that carbon fiber Kevlar matting in there, or carbon fiber, whatever it is that you're working with, fiberglass, etc. And then you're going to want to have a little squeegee, and you're basically going to use that to form your corners and make sure that everything is nice and flat. Alright, because you don't want any bubbles in there. So same thing here. We're going to just use the squeegee to work the matting flat and work it into our corners. Same thing here. And then all the way over. So basically what we're doing is we're using the squeegee to form our corners and tack our mat down. You don't want to touch it because the fiber is actually going to pick up some of that resin, and it's going to soak through. So if you're going to touch it with your bare hands, and I don't suggest it, wear gloves. I'm not wearing gloves right now because I'm not touching it with my bare hands. So what we're doing is we're basically forming up our corners and getting that mat pressed nice and tight down in there. And again, as flat as possible. And the most difficult piece really that I've found in this whole process is this piece up in the front of the bow. So it's not gonna be absolutely pretty every single time, and that's okay, because what counts is that you've got something in there for reinforcement. So again, you're just going to use your squeegee to work that over the chines or your keels or your bulkheads or whatever you need to form over corners. You want to have a squeegee to do that with. So if you have to constantly keep pressing it until it stays, that's basically what you got to do. So it does require a little bit of hands-on. You're not going to just lay this in there and walk away from it. You're going to periodically come back about every 10-15 minutes or so. You're going to make sure that that's not pulling away. Once that's secure in there and the initial lamination coat has dried, then we're going to come back and we're going to lay in some more resin over that to seal it up and give it a really nice, glossy, wet finish. So, more to come on step number 7. So I'm going to attempt to videotape removing this tab with the cutter. So hopefully this works out. Well, there you go. So what I normally do after I've cut these off is I sand them down, and then I reglass, kind of like this one. Already kind of sanded it down, and then what we'll do is we'll make that nice and smooth and reglass it so that they aren't so unattractive and so that everything's nice. Because once everything's done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lightly sand all of the flat surfaces in preparation for the next phase of the build, which will be putting the deck down. So kind of prep on the back end of every phase. So more to come. I'll show you what this looks like in just a few minutes. All right, I'm back, and I've got all of those tabs knocked off of there, sanded down all of the top rails in preparation for the deck. So we've got one more step to do before we actually put that deck together and then lay that down, and that's trimming off all of this excess wood here along the chines. And I have to do that on both sides because, as you guys can see, it's equal on both sides. So that has to be cut away. And so before I cut this stuff away, I like to have this all sealed up. And so the reason why I like to have it sealed up is because it actually minimizes, if it doesn't completely eliminate the fraying of the wood as you're doing it. So basically what I do is I run a good bead on the inside of that wood. That way when I'm trimming it, it doesn't fray and tear up the wood. And then on the outside, we're just going to run a little tape here, and it should buzz right through there and leave a nice clean cut. And so that's why I like this tool, because I can change the head out from being a sander to being this cutting tool right here. So comes in handy when you're building boats like I do. So something to consider to have in your tool arsenal. Definitely comes in handy for me, because like I said, all I have to do is just switch the heads out when I'm doing stuff like this, and makes life a whole lot easier for me. So that's the end of this step. We have to move on to the next step, which is trimming the top, and that's going to take a few minutes, so I'll be back. All right, and I'm back. So I've got all of the tabs knocked off, and we knocked off that edge and put a slight sanding on all of that. I mean, just a slight sanding, because we're going to have some more shaping to do, and we definitely don't want to overcut or oversand. So we've got one more step to do, and that's trim all of this excess off of the lower panels on the hull. So I've got to do that on both sides. Once that's done, we'll come back, show you what that looks like, and then there's going to be a whole lot of sanding involved. So stay tuned, because there's more to come. And I'm back. And so after a couple of hours of trimming and sanding and touching up all of the spots inside of the boat hull that I missed, this is basically what the end result looks like after trimming those edges and sanding and shaping. That's what you got. So if I had somebody else standing here right at the moment, I could actually show you guys what the underside of the hull looks like, but I don't. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut camera and come back online. So hang tight, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and so as you guys can see, I've got all of that sanded, got my edges all rounded. I still have some sanding to do here, and a little bit more across the crest of the hull, but it's a nice solid fill, and I have an even run for the most part across my bottom seam. And so in sanding, there's some shaping involved, and there's a lot more sanding than any other process that goes into this build. So with that being said, if you're not up for sanding and using the muscles in your arms for hours on end, this is not the project for you. Because I promise you, if you're not, how do I want to put this? I guess up for the challenge, so to speak, you're going to get disgusted. So again, there's a lot of sanding and shaping that goes into this end of the step, and just makes it easier to have all of this stuff done before you put the top of the deck on the boat. So that being said, that's going to be the next step, and I've got to put that together off camera. So more to come on the Zippkits 46-inch VBOX build series.